DeathSprint 66. It's not a typical racing game. There's no cars, there's no carts. Just 8 players sprinting at breakneck speeds through a deadly gauntlet of lasers, grinders, and flamethrowers. And not only are the tracks themselves trying to kill you, but the 7 other players are as well. They are armed with an arsenal of power-ups known as tributes, ranging from explosive proximity mines, homing seeker drones, and wildly ricocheting buzzsaws. Developed by Sumo Newcastle and published by Secret Mode, this dystopian blood sport has captivated a small competitive community that is constantly pushing the limits of what they thought was possible. In DeathSprint, speed alone is not enough to guarantee your victory. Sure, players must learn the art of maintaining their momentum, learning to chain together drifts, boosts, and jumps to enter a near unstoppable state of flow. But between the traps on the tracks and the tributes used by players, each race becomes an anxiety-riddled roller coaster, leaving you never knowing what is lurking around the bend, just waiting to ruin your run. It didn't take long before the fastest players in games started to covet spots on the leaderboard, wanting to be on top, proving their dominance. And while some people may be happy with the leaderboard time, I was not. I was craving something more. An obsession that would consume me. One track, one time, one goal. And I wouldn't stop until I got it. Earlier I said DeathSprint is not a typical racing game, and this is true in more ways than just the gameplay. In most racing games, when a player wants to improve their leaderboard time, they can open up a time trial, compete on the map by themselves, improve their time, thus improving their leaderboard standing. While DeathSprint does offer a single-player mode known as Rehearsals, this is meant to be more of a practice mode, where players can sharpen their lines and test out new ideas. But anything accomplished in Rehearsals truly means nothing. If someone wants to climb up the leaderboard, they instead have to do it in a live race. They must enter the PvP mode known as Showtime. Within the DeathSprint community, one map was standing out as a true proving ground: Quayside. It's a 3-lap circuit with tight turns, brutal choke points, and just enough room for some creative shortcuts. It quickly became a fan favorite, and the record on Quayside becoming one of the most sought after in-game. The King of Quayside, a title given to players who currently hold the world record on the map. It became a community tradition. Anytime the record was broken, a new king would be crowned. The first King of Quayside was a player named Herb Rapid. Well, to be honest, Herb was just the king of DeathSprint in general. A speed demon straight from hell, Herb would go on to help lay the foundation and establish the meta. And shortly after the release of DeathSprint, Herb would become the first player to hold every record in-game. After establishing his dominance, Herb would go on to take a break from the game, leaving his throne unguarded. And during Herb's absence, kings would rise, and kings would fall. But one king would rule for too long, a player named Omega. It seemed Omega was constantly getting faster and faster. So fast, in fact, there was a point in which he held nearly every record in-game, topping out at 27 out of 29 maps. Omega had officially claimed the throne as his own, our new king of DeathSprint. The only time his records would be broken, when he beat himself. The battle for Quayside's crown was heating up, and at this point I decided I would throw my hat into the ring. I was watching everyone get faster at Quayside, and it looked like fun. So I loaded up rehearsals and started practicing. It didn't take long before I put up a time that would be a world record had I performed it in Showtime. But shortly after, Omega had increased his world record and shattered my personal best. Not only that, but it turns out he was able to run Quayside at 1 minute and 6 seconds in rehearsals.
Oh yeah, fucking solid run. Yeah. disgusting. That's
Did you
The
see?
106 was a nail in the coffin, shattering all hope I had at wearing Quayside's crown. As time wore on, I found myself getting faster and faster at Quayside. I was continuously shaving off seconds and making my runs more consistent, inching closer to my benchmark of 1 minute and 6 seconds. But I wasn't the only one. Turns out Omega had a new benchmark of his own of 1 minute and 4 seconds, our new pinnacle. And Omega seemed to be getting closer and closer by the day to getting his 104 on the official leaderboard, his line topping out at 107.68. At this time, I was consistently running Quayside in rehearsals at 1 minute and 6 seconds. I had one outlier, one fluke of a run at 104. I had touched the new benchmark, but I could not replicate it. One day I was casually racing in Showtime, just getting in some good runs, enjoying my time in the game, when Quayside shows up. I cross the finish line and a 107 flashes across the screen, and my first thought, damn, just not good enough. I didn't have Omega's record memorized, but I wasn't confident that the time I had just put up was faster than his. So as the race concluded, I backed out and checked the leaderboards, and lo and behold, my 107.54 had just barely edged out Omega for the world record. This is my first time as the king of Quayside. Staring at the leaderboard, there was a nagging thought in my mind. That one fluke of a run, the 104 I had put up only once in rehearsals, so I dive back into rehearsals and load up Quayside. I run the route until the 104 is becoming consistent, and while doing so I had a new outlier, a new personal best. 102. I quickly send a screenshot to Omega taunting him. It seemed Omega didn't take my taunting lightly. He sent me an image of a 101. This was the point our rivalry intensified. Both of us had 107s on the leaderboard. Both of us had a personal best in rehearsals of 104. I was expecting the crown of Quayside to pass back and forth between the two of us, each of us shaving off a second here, a second there from our personal bests in Showtime. But with the 102 and the 101 runs in rehearsal, Omega and myself both knew we were just scratching the surface of efficiency on this map. After seeing Omega's rehearsal 101, I became possessed. I too had to get a 101. I had to know I could do it as well. And I did. And I did, and I did, and I did. The 101 was becoming routine, my new standard, but I had a feeling it could still be faster. There was this feeling boiling in my gut that a perfect run on this line would top out at 59 seconds. The night wore thin, and I had been running on Quayside for what seemed like eternity. Deep into my delirium, I finish a race, and it's my fastest yet. 1:01:01. 3 ones mocking me. And this was a breaking point. I was tired of seeing these ones. I was trying to get the map down to 59, but this 1 second was there too. So I told myself I wouldn't sleep until I got at least 1 minute. I had to make an improvement. I had to push the limits. As my eyes grew tired and my brain numb, the 101s would pile up. I was starting to get mad, like I had reached perfection and I couldn't accept it. After countless hours, the sub-minute was real, and I could finally sleep. The next day, my grind for the 59 began, but there was one more roadblock holding me back: Showtime itself. At the time, there were 29 maps in the Showtime playlist. The playlist was a non-repeating random rotation of maps. Once you played a map, you wouldn't be able to see it again until you had gone through the other 28. And here I am, just trying to play one: Quayside. So every time I queued up for Showtime, I was really spinning a roulette wheel and just praying it would land on Quayside. My approach became methodical. I would run Quayside until I earned 2 to 3 59s. After warming up, I would load up Showtime and pray Quayside would show up before my skill atrophied. And on my very first attempt at the map, I was able to increase my world record to 1 minute and 4 seconds, but it wasn't good enough. And instead of sitting through the entire playlist rotation, waiting an hour and a half for my chance to play Quayside again, I did something else. If I backed out and let the playlist continue without me, the next time I would search, I would get a new playlist, a new random order of maps, almost guaranteeing I would see Quayside sooner than if I had stayed in my original playlist. So in order to guarantee a fresh playlist, and to help make sure I was fresh myself, in between cues I would run Keyside until I earned at least a 101. And on my very next attempt on Keyside, I lowered my record yet again to 102.5. It was 3 seconds from my goal, but I felt the momentum. I felt like every time I would play this map, I would get faster until I got the 59. It wasn't long before my confidence was tested. After putting up the 102, it seemed I just couldn't live on Keyside anymore, like there was a pact made against me to ensure I died. But after enduring the brutal torment for a week, I finally had one beautiful day, putting up 3 101s, with the best of the 3 topping out at 1 minute, 1 second, 0.05. This is when I truly became too confident. After performing 3 101s in one day, I was convinced the 59 was around the corner. But what followed was some of the most heartbreaking runs of my life. Seeker drones, mistakes, bad RNG, the occasional lag spike, it all seemed to plague me. It seemed like nothing could go right, and I couldn't even finish this map without dying. And my best race in Showtime that week being only a 106, compared to our new goal, ridiculously slow. Meanwhile in the background, Omega had also lowered his line to 59 seconds. A week had passed with no improvement. My 101.05 is still being my personal best in Showtime. And after a brutal day of races, not just on Keyside, but it seemed nearly every map I played that night, Death was my best friend, just wanting to say hi every chance he could. Feeling frustrated, like my best racing on Keyside is behind me, I needed a distraction, so I loaded up a different game and just forgot about DeathSprint for the evening. But as I was getting ready for bed, something called to me. So I opened up DeathSprint and queued for PvP. And there it was. After all the frustration, the near misses, the countless hours of practice, it finally happened. That perfect run, a 59-second in Showtime. My ultimate prize. The moment I crossed the finish line, it didn't feel real. I had dreamed of this, imagined the feeling, but the rush was something else entirely. Every ounce of effort, every setback, it had all led to this. But even as the victory settled in, I knew it wouldn't last forever. Omega was still out there refining his route, pushing his own limits. The Keyside crown never stayed on one head for too long. That's the beauty of DeathSprint. No record is ever truly untouchable. Yet this run wasn't about the crown. It was about the pursuit. A relentless drive to push the boundaries of what's possible. And whether Omega takes the title back tomorrow, or a new challenger emerges, I know one thing. I gave it everything I had, and I achieved something I once joked was impossible. The king of Keyside for now, but the race never truly ends.